If you think that those buildings look familiar, you're right. They were used in the James Bond movies recently. That one and that one. Vauxhall Bridge on the Thames there. So it's pretty cool. We're actually in the area of Millbank, and as you can see, it's a typical London summer day. And once again, I left. You have to excuse the sound. My jack plugging in my microphone, left it at home. So anyway, it is summer and it is wet. The Tate Gallery. It's quite good inside there, quite spectacular paintings. It has the history of 500 years of British painting stored in there. Well, that's the time frame they have. So we're on Millbank walking towards Westminster. That's the Tate Gallery, Britain that is. Not to be confused with the Tate Modern Gallery, which is near the Globe on the south bank. This is in Millbank. As you can see, they've got new buildings going up. A lot of investment in London. We're walking across Lambeth Bridge at the moment. Westminster over there. Bit of traffic at the moment, and you can see all the buses stopped on the Westminster Bridge over there, so it must be a bit of a breakdown somewhere. So yeah, this is Lambeth Bridge, people, and you got the Houses of Parliament just over there. I'm just going to make my way to a cafe, which I hope is still there. I was here last 3 years ago, so hopefully it's still there. So and then we'll go continue our exploration of London on a typical summer day. The cafe just there, we're trying to make my way to and have something to eat, getting a bit pecky. Yeah, nearly lunchtime, so it's a bit quiet, but I'm hoping it'll be open. If it's not, then I've got to go somewhere else. Looks like it's open. Yes, one little interesting fact about these bridges here, the Westminster and Lambeth, but first I'll start with Lambeth Bridge here. The red paint on the bridge here is said to represent the colour of the seats, the leather seats in the House of Lords and Parliament there. That's what it's meant to represent, the House of Lords. So that's just a little trivial fact, bit of information, and yeah, I didn't realise that until I looked it up. Just a little bit of trivia. Well, I just had my cup of coffee out. That was nice coffee. You want to get a great coffee in London? That cafe there is the place to go to. Right now we are near the Palace of Westminster, just across the river there. That Palace of Westminster, where it got its name, what they call the Houses of Parliament. That area there used to be an island many centuries ago known as Thorney Island. And so on that particular bit of island, they built a palace there. Was said to be, the person inhabiting was King Canute. I think that's the way you pronounce it. In the 11th century. And in the subsequent years, many other kings lived in the Palace of Westminster there. And that's where King Henry VIII had his palace as well. He lived in that palace. However, in I think it was in 1512, in the 16th century, the palace burnt down. It was quite a big fire. So the king moved elsewhere. Anyway, it was rebuilt and started being used as a place of parliament, so to speak, in the 16th century. 16th century. So that's where they started to meet, the House of Commons. Then in 1834, I think it was, there was a great big fire. There was a massive fire that the whole palace just burnt down. Yes, and I believe that most of London turned out to watch the show. And as you can understand, there wasn't much of a real fire brigade back in those days. And being a wooden timber structure, yeah, it burnt. So what happened was then they decided, well, they're going to still build another one. However, the king at the time in 1834, King George IV, I think it was, they were building Buckingham Palace at the time, and the king wasn't really impressed with Buckingham Palace, so he immediately offered the use of the palace for the parliament. And however, the politicians declined, so the king was stuck with Buckingham Palace. Anyhow, what happened then was the first stone was laid in about 1840. They laid the foundation stone. The construction continued until 1860. 1860 was when they completed most of it, but it was still another decade until the 1870s before they finished it. So the Houses of Parliament, the House of Westminster, are what we see today. And at this present time, Westminster is undergoing extensive restoration because there has been a lot of deterioration of the sandstone and that. However, it still looks spectacular. Yes, the green colour of this bridge here is said to represent the House of Commons, the leather seats, the colour of the seats in the House of Commons there. So that's a little bit more trivia. So that's a interesting thing to know. Green House of Commons. During the Second World War, the House of Parliament were actually hit 14 times by German bombs, and one raid, the worst one was in 1941, one night when the Parliament building was hit by 12 bombs and 3 people were killed. So that was a bit of a tragedy. The Germans did their best to try and wipe this off the face of the earth, but true to British form, it hung in there. But the Parliament building has had quite a history, so to speak. So yeah, it's interesting to know that one day, so many years ago, there was just bombs falling down on that particular building.